Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats here at ICC to examine a game between SugarIslander and vvsi. This was played in team event of 57 of Team 4545 League in the first round of the playoffs. So this is when it counts, when the money hits the wall, so to speak. Now I'm happy to say that both sides pretty much took their time in this game. White moved a little quicker, and that's going to be evident and hurt him a little bit. I have the timestamp here. Again, nobody bothered to save this to their library, and it's disappeared from their history. I can't keep up with all the games and I don't have enough room. I need you guys that nominate games to save the game in your library. You can delete it after I select the winner. Okay, you can keep room. I'm running out of mine. And I just don't have time to come to ICC and get these things, because the timestamp does help. It can help isolate what went wrong in a game. Sometimes we can say, well, here, you took 12 seconds on the move. That's why. And I've been guilty of, just as anybody, of moving too quick. But anyway, let's run through this game. What this game illustrates is development. Okay, that's the main thing. We're following pretty much a book line of the Nimzo-Vic defense. I don't know, or Nimzo-Indian defense. But White does one thing that I always talk about, aside from development, is he neglects his king position, his king safety. Okay, there's nothing wrong with playing d5. It's thematic and occurs a lot in the Nimzo-Indian defense. Okay, but why not get the bishop developed, okay, and get castled? You see, this is what's important. And if you want to make some exchanges, one thing to do is exchange on e5 and activate this bishop. White does have the bishop pair, and the bishops need open lines. But White starts on this little path that kind of mess him up here a little bit. Now here's another peculiar move. Okay, what's White trying to do? I have to try to deduce from how the game goes what's White trying to do. What White should do is just, like I say, play bishop e2, then you're ready to castle. Now what's White afraid of? Is White afraid of d4? Well, or e4, I mean? I don't think he should be, because this suddenly gives the black knight, or the white knight, a wonderful square, d4. White's fine here, okay? He's got, both bishops have a little bit of mobility. I mean, granted, this thing doesn't have any squares to go to, but at least the diagonal's open, and these things can change. And this knight's exerting a certain amount of influence, taking potential squares away from black pieces, although this pawn's doing the job. But I think White's here is fine here. So the first question we ask is, what is White afraid of? Was White afraid of e4? Well, he had no reason to fear e4. Now, what else is he trying to do? Is he trying to redeploy the knight? Maybe he wants to put the knight on e4. Is that what he's trying to do? Well, that doesn't seem to work too easily. You might walk into a nuisance pin. Besides, it's black's move here, and this guy remains on f1. So now here White commits another fundamental error. A third chance to play bishop e2, and here he basically violates one of the principles of Aaron Nimzo-Vic. Do not make exchanges that develop your opponent's pieces. Let your opponent make exchanges that develop your pieces. So black's put this knight on b8, and I didn't even comment on that because, well, here, I'll go back. I had meant to. The knight has a potential outpost on c5. Now, White could maybe kick it out with b4, so you might want to consider playing a5 first, but the knight will find play. The c5 squares come into black's hands. But anyway, let's go forward. Again, what's indicated is bishop e2. Well, wait a minute. We got a problem here. Houston, we got a problem. d5's hanging. Okay, so how do we deal with that? Well, we deal with e4. Okay? Now, it's common in an Nimzo-Indian that a lot of times the white squared bishop is behind a bunch of pawns, okay? Now maybe white doesn't want the C file opened up because his queen's on it. Well, let's examine that. Okay, how is black going to exploit that? That's the question. Well, he's got to get a rook on C8 to start. Now, that square's occupied right now. Which rook do you want to put there? Well, first you got to find a home for this bishop. Where are you going to put the bishop? Maybe you want to put it on. Maybe you want to put it on G4. That certainly looks like a good square. It stops this bishop E2. Now white can weaken his king position just ever so slightly. Now, it's just a possible line. A lot of people wouldn't want to get their bishop stuck back here, but it can get in play later. It's probably too loosening for white to try G4, but I'm just trying to analyze with development, and so far it doesn't look like black's doing much yet on that C file that white was so afraid of. Besides, we can go gain a well, no, we don't have to do that. Knight C5 guards it and guards B7 and attacks. But how is black threatening to exploit this pin on this bishop? And the answer is he isn't. Okay, that's the answer. He's not. So white had nothing to fear. Black didn't have to put the bishop on G4. If you're uncomfortable with that, you can try and trade it off. Okay. Now the point is on bishop E2 you play bishop A6, and you say, "Ha, you can't castle." But then maybe white has to lose a tempo, and then boom, white castles. And now maybe black's getting close to doing something on the C file. He'd like to get knight A4 in, but that hangs the knight, so he's got to prepare that. But it's white's move, so maybe white will just kick that knight out of there, okay, and then break the pin. And what does white have to fear here? The answer is nothing, okay. So taking on C6 just starts getting him in a bad way here. And then here we go again. B4. Why is white not developing his king side? Okay, why? That's 5 consecutive moves where he hasn't worried about his king. Okay, what's B4 trying to do? To attack the knight? Well, guess what? The knight's going to find a good square here in a second. Is it to keep the knight out of A5? No, the knight's already kept out of A5 by this bishop. Is it to control C5? Well, what's black planning to put there? Nothing. This knight's not even on D7 yet to even get to C5. So B4 is just a poor move. And this allows black a chance to start being the aggressor. And let's look at development. Both sides have a queen and a minor piece developed, but black's castled. And now black has a little threat. He's threatening to either win back the bishop pair or snatch a rook. So the threat is pawn takes, and then well, yeah, you're going to win this rook. If bishop takes, you're not just winning back the bishop pair. You're winning a piece because you can't take back because the rook hangs. Okay, so white responds with B5. Yay, that was what he was trying to do. But white looks at this and says, "Great, I've kicked that knight back even further." Well, no, you haven't. Knight D4 comes in. And this move is only playable because white never bothered to get his king to safety. The queen's under attack. You've got to deal with that. White looks and says, "Oh gosh, I missed that." Let's see. Pawn takes. Whoops, there's a discovered check. Got to get out of check. And then there's this nuisance pin coming. You're going to win the piece back. And bingo. We got this, like I say, there's this nuisance pin. White's got to extricate himself. You know what I mean. He's trying to get out of it. White can't castle here. White could have been castled already if he'd played it wisely, but he didn't. So how do you break this pin? Well, you start with something like rook A2, I guess, and just hope to weather the storm. The purpose is you're going to move this knight, and probably send it back to F3 where it came from. It's just so you can castle. I have to go through a great deal of effort. Does black can black get anywhere with bishop g4? Now maybe the bishop can go back and have a nice diagonal, and the white king side position is a little weaker. Black's just better developed. Black's got the better game. So white wants no part of that and just moves his queen. And black develops his pieces. Now white decides I better get rid of that thing. And he wins a pawn. Okay, so white's saying, haha, your idea failed. But white's forgetting one main thing. He didn't develop his pieces. Okay? Now, it's basically a kind of position where black has compensation for the pawn sacrificed because of the tempos. Okay, black has castled and got his bishop out on f5, and it's black's move. Black is 2 tempos ahead, plus it's his move. So he's, in effect, we can say 2.5 tempos ahead. And they say that you need 3 tempos to have compensation for the pawn. So this is close enough. It's not clear where the white pieces get active here, and black's minor pieces are better posted than white's. So opening up the position was a wise choice. It's not yet enough for black to win. He's got to regain his sacrificed pawn, but that's going to happen here in short order, as we will see. Okay, now white finally develops his bishop and gets ready to castle. Okay, so he got rid of black's bishop was better. White got rid of it, but black's still better posted with his pieces, and he's better developed. So black does the right thing. He starts opening up the game. When you're ahead in development, you want to open up the position because your pieces will seize those lines that open up. Okay, white finally castles. Okay, move 20. Now, as I was talking about the time, I said maybe white moved a little quickly. Let's see. Did move 20? White's got 32 minutes. He's moved. Yeah, he did move a little quicker than white did. But some of these key moves. Let's see. A3 bishop. Okay, let's just go back and review. Knight D2. Knight D2. His clock went down 11 seconds, meaning he took a minute on that, and he still had 48 minutes on his clock, more time than when he started. He captured on C6. 6 seconds came off, so he took about a minute on that. B4, his clock went down 4 minutes, so he took nearly 5 on that. But he took 5 minutes on a bad move. Logic says, in spite of everything else in the position, unless you see a forced win, develop. That's what logic says. Instead, he just got himself in kind of a mess. Now, when Knight D4 hit, white took his clock went down about a minute, so he took a minute and a half. He was finally starting to take some time in here, but anyway, let's move on. Black just brings another piece into play. So what's white got to show for it? Black's got every piece of his in play. Now, you can argue the rook is developed on f1, but it's not helping white right now. And this rook's not helping white right now. The position's about to open up, and black has the better pieces. So what does white do? He doesn't develop a rook. He's afraid of the discoveries. Well, if you're afraid of the discoveries, just go ahead. Black's up in development. Let him have it. And just try to hang on. Okay, now what's black going to do? Make black find a plan. White is a pawn up. Well, here's a plan. Put a rook on the 7th. See, that's what happens when the position opens up when you're ahead in development. Okay, so white was just asking for this. So he's got a difficult game here. But he keeps finding, he found some resources. He was doing okay, but black is just slowly but surely just outplaying him. Now the knight's under attack, and the knight's also guarding c4. So now the queen moves again. Okay, so still these rooks are sitting there not helping. So black's down a pawn, but black's got the better game here. Pressure on d2, and he guards the knight. Let's go tickle the queen. Back up. Okay. And black's ready to triple on the open file. I mean, this is just a marvelous type position for black. And now white's finally saying, well, if you want the pawn, okay, go ahead, you can have the pawn. I'm gonna maybe fork you or something. Let's see, is that his idea here? I was kind of thinking white was being stingy and might not want to give back the pawn, but he's got a little plan in mind. But black has no part of that. He creates a threat, and the threat is to play rook takes f3. Let's burn a move for white, and we'll see it. Okay, rook takes f3. What do you do if you're white here? Well, you cannot take the rook because you get checkmated. Okay, so you're just basically losing a piece, right? Okay, so white plays h3, he sees through it. Good job. And then naturally rook takes f3 comes anyway. Now white gets some double pawns. But black's the one drawback with what black has done is, though, he's getting pieces traded off, and the more the pieces get traded off, the less his advantage is. But then again, black's just trying to get a draw. Black to play, if he can get a draw, he's said to have done well. But still, black's just way ahead in development. White's got a difficult game, and finally he gives back the pawn, and naturally there's no mate threat down here. The queen will come back, but white gets tricky, and this is not the time to get tricky. Okay, maybe it is. Maybe those heavy pieces of blacks can be a problem. But I'm thinking. You see, here the problem with the white position is this rook. Okay, it's not developed. If this rook was, even if it was on a1, I might breathe a little easier for white, simply because it was in motion. But can white just put this rook on e1? It's probably a good idea to get rid of it. We're going to give white credit for this because it gets more pieces off. But who's better off here? That's the question. Now, black could play queen takes a3, and then on queen c8 check, queen back to f8, then queen takes c8. Both sides get a pass pawn. It's probably pretty even. But instead, what happens? Black just retreats his queen, covers his back rank, puts some pressure on g4, keeps some pressure on b5, and what does white do? Well, what's wrong with getting the queen? Why not get this rook into play? What is black threatening? Well, black's not threatening anything. Okay, he's just got pressure. Is he planning to play rook d4? Is that his threat? Well, go win a pawn over here. We can always counter that with, yeah. Okay, let's burn a move for white. Okay, boom. Now we'll come back here. If you take, I take. Okay. Right now, white's done fine here, hasn't he? And if instead you can't take the pawn on b5 because which threatens this rook, because white will administer a checkmate on the back rank. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe so white. So the whole purpose of this is I'm trying to say white needs to develop something. What if he had developed his rook? Okay, get that rook into play. Now this weakens f2, but is black really poised to do anything? Well, at least white's menacing a couple of squares. Okay, white's got some activity now. He's given back the pawn, but it's an even game. But white's, oops, let's revert, get into the game. White refuses to develop his rook, and black covers the back rank. What was white trying to do? Trick black into allowing this check? I don't know. To trade queens and go into rook ending? Okay, but here, once again, we're still following these fundamental rules that we're violating. We're not following. I mean, A4 was move 33. How long did he take on that move? He's running out of time now. He's started to take his time. He's down to 7 minutes. So he's finally realized this game's not all that easy, and he's taking his time. But Black isn't attacking this pawn, okay? And he's attacking this one, but he's not really attacking that pawn because this rook is hanging. This is the perfect time to just simply play rook e1, okay? Black can't take this pawn, but at least, like I say, this rook's developed, and who knows what can happen. The game's probably even, but a4 just it doesn't help the white position. It just puts the pawn, even though it protects this pawn. A lot of people say, well, it protects that pawn. Yeah, but watch, boom. Now he gets out with a check, but now he's going to lose that pawn. And well, he actually takes this pawn. I think maybe he should have taken the a pawn, but he didn't. I guess he figured that a pawn wasn't going anywhere, and he's on it twice. Now White finally, on move 36, he finally completes his development. Now, my heavens, you're completing your development on move 36? You need to complete your development on move 10, okay? Move 15, depending on what kind of opening you're in. So White didn't castle till move 20, and then he didn't bring that rook into play until move 36. So, I mean, White's got some threats, but Black is just better posted here, and because he's been ahead in development all along. Boom, centralize the queen, threaten a mate. White's got to deal with that. And another weakness, and now we'll take the pawn. Now the sting of sticking a rook on c7 isn't as potent as it was. There's no threat on the queen, and Black has just bagged a pawn. And from this point on, it's just a matter of technique. White is in a lost ending. The passed a pawn is going to decide. Doesn't matter aside from the fact that Black has the 3-on-2 pawn majority on the king side, he needs to keep those pawns pretty much where they're at to shield his king from checks. Okay, and we're just basically reaching an ending now, and Black's 2 pawns ahead. He was down a pawn, now he's 2 pawns ahead, just like that. And it's just a matter of getting that pawn running, and there's nothing White can do about it. Absolutely nothing. And here it goes. And now it queens, and game over. So it wasn't. It was a well played game by Black. White, you were close, okay? You were close, but you just had to develop, okay? And Black exploited it nicely. Now, sometimes you can get away with not developing if your opponent's not experienced, but you don't have to be. You don't have to be really good to win a game when your opponent doesn't develop. Just don't worry about his rating if he's stronger. Just say, look, he's not doing what he's supposed to do. Let me develop my pieces, and all of a sudden all the chances will come up. Did White really have any meaningful threats in this game? Nothing that Black couldn't handle. Black had plenty of threats. Anyway, congratulations, vvsi, and thanks for your time and looking at the video. Take care.